Hey guys, on this week's episode of Law Have Mercy, I bring on my good friend Cody Vidrine. He came here from Lake Charles. We talk about a bunch of cool stuff, hurricane claims, what it's like to visit inmates in jail, why people get divorced. We talk about family law, we talk about criminal law, we talk about hurricane claims, car wrecks. We talk about top 3 places to eat in Houston. We cover it all, man. It's a blast. Cody was an awesome guest. Hope you enjoy. Cody, man, what's up, bro?
Not much, man. How you been?
Man, thanks for coming all the way from Lake Charles to be with us today.
No problem.
How's that weather, man?
It's great.
Is it?
Compared to what it's been the last couple of weeks.
Well, next week we're getting to historic lows, so
Yeah.
it's going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Cody and I met at a conference in Atlanta.
That's correct.
Yeah, social media lawyer conference.
Personal injury.
Yeah, we posted up at the bar and had a good time, right?
Yeah.
Had some good food and did
was a
some
good
networking.
time.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
What's interesting is Cody is a jack of all trades, I like to call him. He does pretty much every law under the sun, personal injury, hurricane claims. We could talk about that in a second. Criminal law, family law, real estate. You do it all.
Yeah, I try to do as much as possible for the clients that I represent. In addition to that, I have some other attorneys at our office that handle other areas.
Yeah.
But I try to stick to, criminal, family, personal injury types.
Yeah. What's your firm name?
Well, it started off as Lofton Kane LeBlanc. Then it switched over to Lofton and LeBlanc. And now it's going to be called, or it is called now, technically, Lofton Law Group.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and how long have you been there?
A little over 7 years.
7 years?
Well, no, I'm sorry. A little over 4 years. I joined in April of 2019.
Cool. Good stuff, man. And I believe you guys just recently moved back into your office.
That's correct. So
Yeah.
around June or July of 2023 is when we moved back.
Yeah, something about a large hurricane smashed it, smashed the building.
Hurricane Laura and Hurricane Delta did us pretty bad. So our whole office got destroyed, and we had to kind of essentially rebuild from the ground up.
And everything's nice and upgraded.
Great,
Yeah,
it's a brand new office, no complaints.
I mean, when the insurance adjusters see that a law firm has been destroyed, they're kind of like, okay, we're gonna have to take this one on the chin.
Well, I joke about it because not long after, the hurricanes passed, everybody asks you, how did your property hold up, or how's your office doing? And I joke with people and say, well, I have a sunroof in my office.
It ripped the ceiling off?
Yeah, the whole roof like a tin can, man.
So computers, documents,
Everything.
paper, desks.
Fortunately, we had a lot of our paper files in, the cabinets at the time because we knew it was coming, so we tried to prepare as best as possible. But fortunately, a lot of our files weren't destroyed and weren't wet. We did have some, but majority of them were dry within the cabinets, thankfully.
Yeah, I haven't made I made some poor decisions, but one of the best decisions I ever made 14 years ago when I started, 13 and a half years ago when I started, I was paperless from day one.
Yeah.
So every single paper that came into the office was scanned and
Absolutely.
lived in the cloud.
Very important.
Yeah.
And that Hurricane Laura and Delta is a prime example. And that's something we learned about in law school. You're supposed to have a backup. And we do. It's just, we have to keep files for 5 years from the Supreme Court on top of dealing with real estate. That's a lot of documents from the real estate side.
Yeah. Did you handle a lot of hurricane claims?
I did. I also referred some out just because of the number of cases I was getting. I wasn't able to keep up, which worked out well,
And so hurricane claims could be a business that was destroyed, but it could also be a home that was destroyed.
Correct. Commercial property, residential property. You also have policies related to the business itself, so business interruption plans. Anything related from the hurricane destroying your business, your property that you may own, you have a case.
Yeah, and so what was interesting is when there were 2 hurricanes that kind of hit in the Lake Charles area, but one hit the east side of Louisiana as well, the New Orleans side,
Right.
and we were right in the middle. We were in Lafayette, so one hit east side, one hit the west side, or 2 hit the west side, and we were unscathed pretty
Right.
much.
Yeah.
And so I didn't handle any hurricane
Yeah.
claims because all my people, thank God, were not
Right.
affected. but I know that a lot of lawyers handle a lot of cases, and those cases are still in litigation, some of them, right?
100%. A lot of them are still ongoing. I believe, we have some CLEs and meetings that we have throughout the year leading up to today from federal court. And I believe Judge Kane mentioned that right before the date of prescription, there was about 800 or 900 lawsuits filed. But total, I think it was 16 or 1700 on the federal level.
Wow.
So that's not including what happened in, the 14th or Beauregard or Calcasieu, or even Cameron.
Right. So what is your typical client that hires a lawyer for a hurricane claim? What happens to make someone want to hire a lawyer to help with that process?
For me, I think the client gets tired of dealing with the adjusters. They get tired of hearing, well, I don't have a report yet. I'm still working on it. That was the main thing from what I've heard. The initial complaints were that. The second thing that they would complain about was, well, this doesn't cover all my damages. This doesn't put me back into the place I was prior to the hurricane, And then the third was, I've never had to do this before, Cody. I don't really know what to do. Am I doing this right? Should I sign this release? Should I continue fighting?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, let's just assume there was $100,000 of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's out there saying, well, man, I don't want to pay a lawyer a contingency fee, a portion of that $100,000,
Sure.
right? Because I'm going to just ride it out, and the insurance companies eventually could pay me $100,000. But that's not what we're seeing, right?
Not what we're seeing at all. You think you have 100,000, they're probably going to say you have 20,000.
Yeah. And when are you going to get the check?
Right. That's the other thing,
Yeah, and they can also just get tired of reaching voicemails.
Of course.
Yeah, and so
or not knowing who to call,
But where would you add the value on? Not only would you make it easier for them in the process because you're dealing with the insurance adjuster and you know the law,
of course,
but there's also a value add to that.
Absolutely. So the first thing I would recommend is people take pictures, take their own photos, do their own due diligence. The more you document, the better. That ultimately that's the starting of how do you add value to your case, and how long does it take from when you opened up a claim up until the adjuster comes out? How long from the adjuster coming out till them issuing an estimate or a report from when that adjuster came and inspected your property? That was another thing. Some of them never even got an estimate or a report from the inspection by the adjuster. So taking that and then hiring your own, I call them experts, but you can hire a private adjuster or a public adjuster is what people usually say. Get them to come out and inspect and give an evaluation. Get them to give you a report and compare it to the adjuster that works for the insurance companies.
Yeah. Are you suggesting that an adjuster that works for Allstate may not put as much money that Allstate has to pay as someone else?
Oh, 100%.
Are you suggesting that?
I'm not suggesting. I'm telling you that's exactly what happens.
And so, our example earlier of the $100,000, the Allstate adjuster is going to say, okay, cool. Well, we found $20,000 of damage.
Yeah.
The public adjuster or your expert will say, no, this is $150,000 of damage.
Well, they'll come in and they'll look at if your expert or your adjuster does it right, they'll compare it, like I said, to what, the adjuster for the insurance company may say, hey, Chaz, you got 8-foot ceilings. Well, Chaz, you know your house better than the adjuster does. And you know for a fact this house has 10 or 12-foot ceilings. Well, there's underpayment or valuing the property damage to your case. You're missing out on stuff. Or your carpet may actually be tile flooring or laminate. The different little things in the details matter. Or they may try to say, oh, well, this is flooding damage. This isn't wind-driven rain. Or, this isn't wind damage.
Yeah.
So we're not going to cover it because it's flooding.
It seems to me like it's not that different than a car wreck case. The client is thinking, all right, I don't want to get a lawyer involved. But the reality is, would you rather 100% of a grape or 2/3 of a watermelon.
Right.
Right. The lawyer is going to make it so much bigger that it more than justifies the legal fee.
100%.
And then we also keep their feet to the fire.
Right.
Did you file any bad faith claims?
Every single one of my lawsuits, 9 times out of 10, when it comes to a hurricane case, I'm including my bad faith into it.
What is bad faith?
So bad faith means, so in Louisiana we have 2 statutes that essentially are there to hold the insurance companies accountable on behalf of consumers and normal people. So what that means is whenever you make a claim for any kind of insurance, usually there's certain guidelines that the insurance company has to follow. And if they don't follow that, then it could be presumed that they're in bad faith. Well, whenever you have a bad faith claim against an insurance company, in addition to the damages you're entitled to under your policy, it opens up the door for penalties and attorney fees on top of whatever you're entitled to receive.
Now, have they, there's been some recent legislation or some discussion of whether they're going to pull those bad faith damages back, or were they going to increase them?
Well, the 2 statutes that I'm talking about, there was a modification or an amendment to one of them, and that began, the new effective date, I believe, was back in 2022. They didn't really do too much other than change up some language in it, but it still didn't ultimately affect the overall of both those statutes.
Yeah. So a lot of times you'll hear about tort reform and that kind of thing, whittling away. Louisiana is a judicial hellhole and all these other things that they talk about. And look, insurance premiums are going up, but that could be a function of more natural disasters and stuff. But the reality is when people are hit with a hurricane and they're living in a mobile home or in a hotel or whatever, and the insurance company doesn't call them back, they see that there is a need for lawyers to pursue claims, and insurance companies may not do everything right all the time, right?
100%.
Yeah, there's been a wave of that, and because really, Lake Charles was hit, New Orleans were hit, Houma, Thibodeau, all those areas which traditionally are conservative areas, they're kind of rethinking some of that.
Absolutely. I would just say people need to realize that insurance companies, it's a business. They're not your friends for the most part. I mean, it's good to have insurance. We need insurance. But at the end of the day, they're in it to make money. And partially that's part of the reason why they increase their premiums.
Yeah.
You know,
I tell, the way I try to explain it, everyone has to pay into it, right? It's all premiums. And they take that money and they invest it.
Yeah.
And they invest it in treasury bonds and stocks and all these other things. And they make money off of other people's money, and they try to assess risk.
Yep.
And they're going to pay out, but they want to pay out the least amount possible. Absolutely. So they make the most profit. These are huge billion-dollar companies.
Yep.
And they have it figured out.
Of course. Delay, underpay, and don't pay at all. That's the game. The longer they can hold on to their money, the more money they make. The longer they can hold on to your money, the more money they make.
I see your social media. What's your handle?
Car crash, call Cody.
There you go. I see sometimes like when you are filing a suit or sending a demand, and I'm like, good for Cody, man. It's like it's a cool thought. You're a little guy from Oakdale. I'm a little guy from Cecilia, Louisiana. And we're taking on billion-dollar companies. Yeah. And just with a stroke of a pen, we're in the ball game. Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Power of the pen, man.
Yeah. And
underdogs, I think of that.
I love representing underdog.
100%.
I had a 9-month stint with a defense firm, and they literally would put a policy, and I don't know if these words were said, but it was pretty much understood. Figure out a way not to pay this claim, right? Yeah. Figure out a way to get out of this thing. Yeah. And there was just something. Did you ever do defense work?
Yeah, I did defense work here in Lafayette for 6 or 7 months.
6 or 7 months.
6 or 7
man,
months,
somebody beat my record.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It's exactly similar story for you compared to you, what you mentioned. For me, it was dealing with adjusters that are telling me or like you said, trying to figure out ways to not pay it. Yeah. But they're also paying me to talk to me about this case. Right. And I'm like, hey, if you would just pay this, the case would be over. Right. You pay him what he's entitled to receive, and you not have to pay me any more money.
That's right.
They don't look at it like that.
No. And there's so much like misinformation through lobbying and just in public smear campaigns that make us like plaintiffs lawyers look like slime balls and ambulance chasers or whatever. But it's like, man, we're fighting for the people.
Right.
We represent people, not billion-dollar companies. So it used to bother me. Now I don't. I'm like, forgive them for they not know.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, my comment is, and the same thing for criminal defense. Everybody hates plaintiff attorneys. Everybody hates criminal defense attorneys until they need us.
Yeah, exactly.
Then they want to love us.
That's right. Do you like the criminal defense side?
I love it, man. But those two, criminal and personal injury, my two favorite areas of law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that, ironically, and we'll talk about your family law stuff too, but ironically, criminal defense clients are probably the easiest.
I agree with you.
They do not call. They do not ask questions. If they don't hear from you, so much the better.
Right.
Right.
I find that they're very appreciative of the work that you do for them.
Yeah.
And to an extent, you have to, because their lives are on the line.
Right.
It's one thing compared to a personal injury case where at the end of the day, you're fighting to get them money because that's the only thing you can get them, return for their injuries or their damages.
Unless you invent a time machine.
Right.
Right.
Correct. But criminal, it's either, hey, you're either free or you're not free, or you work out a deal to where they're not going to jail,
Yeah. So they're it's a true win. Even if you just mitigate circumstances, it's a true win.
I agree.
How'd you get into criminal?
Criminal was always an interest from early on. I originally wanted to do plastic surgery, and then ultimately went to court with a girlfriend at the time I was dating. Her dad was an attorney. He took me to court, and I kind of fell in love with just being in a courtroom. And I just always thought criminal defense was a cool area. Again, fighting for the underdog against the big government, big brother and everything. So immediately switched to criminal and wanting to be an attorney and never turned back.
Really? And so did you bring the criminal practice to your firm, or were they doing criminal work
They were not doing criminal work. So criminal work at our office was from me. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And you handle cases throughout the state?
Throughout the state, depending on who wants to pay me or hire me. I'm also in federal court. I do some federal cases, but primarily on Southwest Louisiana area in Lafayette. I've been up north to Shreveport once or twice.
Have you ever been to East Feliciana?
I have not, but I have plenty of clients that.
It's the most beautiful. It's the most beautiful courtroom.
Yeah.
Probably, one of the top courtrooms in the country. It has the huge columns surrounding the entire courthouse. Okay. There's a fireplace. The courtroom is in the second floor. There's a fireplace. I just remember driving through a lot of pine trees, and then I saw this majestic courthouse. Yeah. And it was a really cool experience. And then there's another one in there you go. Look at that courthouse.
That's
man.
Cool.
And there's one in I believe it's Napoleonville. I think it's Assumption Parish Courthouse. Have you been in that one?
I've not.
When you walk in, you feel like Atticus Finch.
Oh, wow.
It's a really cool experience.
I got you.
But the federal courthouse, I've never handled a federal criminal case.
Yeah.
Those courtrooms are just next level.
You're dealing with a federal institution, so they've got federal money. Everything's top tier.
And when you walk in, when you handle a federal case, you might be the only case on the docket.
That's correct.
So you walk in, the bailiff, the clerk, everyone is there for you.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that adds to the pressure, man.
Yeah. It's all marble and mahogany, and it's just, the Lafayette courthouse is
phenomenal.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful courthouse. I'm sure they're all pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, Lake Charles just opened theirs back up. I went to opening house about a month ago just to tour it and take a look at all the different courtrooms. They have 4 over there. So
yeah. You ever go to jail, see inmates?
Yeah, often.
Clients?
Often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that experience?
It is. I don't understand how people would want to end up there. People that I think if people understood what jail was like or prison. It would probably make them second guess sometimes committing crimes.
Yeah.
It's not fun. I think for me and my clients on the criminal side, the people that do get arrested and aren't able to bond out and are being detained and held in jail prior to their trial date, it's awakening experience for them. Because it really is, depending on where you're at in jail, it's a different world.
Yeah.
You know,
I've never been to a prison. I call jails parish jails.
Sure.
And I call prisons like Angola, right?
Yeah.
It's a prison. But what's crazy about the parish jail, I mean, look, neither one is the Taj Mahal, right? I mean, they're all bad places. Yeah. But the parish jail, what's interesting is you could have a guy that was picked up with an OWI, first time ever being picked up, and he can't bond out.
Yep.
And you could have a serial killer there that's awaiting trial.
That's correct.
And we did have a serial killer here in Lafayette Parish Jail. I forget. I'm sorry. Well, Derek Todd Lee was was probably held in St. Martin Parish for a while when they first picked him up. Yep. But I used to go when I was a public defender. They made a big push to go see inmates more often, and at first I had to wait for a guard to bring me from room to room to room, and then we got like more free flowing access just because of the guard shortage or whatever. So they would put me in a room with 5 inmates. I'm in jail. I got a suit on, and I got 5 guys in a room with me.
Right.
And I can see the guards listening to their iPods at the time, probably whatever it was. And I was doing the calculation in my head. I was like, it's going to take a long time for that guy to make it all the way to me. And look, honestly, you have some inmates who may have some mental disorders or something, right? Or might have some issues, some anger issues. I mean, they're not there because they're, you know, choir boys on the whole. Yeah. But I found that they were very respectful of me and my time there. Of course. One thing that was always interesting, my wife irons my shirts. Okay. Right? We don't do dry cleaning.
I got you.
My wife she watches Netflix and likes to iron. That's one of the things she does. And I always had sharp pleats on my shirts, and they really appreciated that in jail like nowhere else.
Hey, they love it.
Have you noticed that about like clothing?
I haven't had that, but yeah, I mean, what I've had was the comments on the suits. You know, I like that suit, or I like that tie. Yeah. You know, but I can also see that. You know, the creases and everything.
The creases. I was told that like because they all wear the same jumpers, that like clean jumpers are fresh, or real ironed professional jumpers are highly sought as a status symbol. In jail.
Makes sense.
And so if you're that newbie and you come with a fresh set, you're not gonna have that fresh set very long, right? Somebody's gonna upgrade their fit.
Or your shoes. You're gonna lose your shoes. That's the first thing they go and take from you.
Was it Crocs? Is it Crocs in the jails that you've been in?
No, Crocs, slides. Like these plastic slides that are miserable looking. They're not comfortable, but nothing to it.
I didn't mind going to jail because it was kind of a surreal thing, right? It's kind of like
it opens up your eyes.
It opens up your eyes, and it's also like, am I really here right now in jail? Like, what's going on? You know, just like when you walk into court the first time, like this is really it. But every time I leave, I immediately go shower. I mean, there's something about that jail smell. What is it? It's like
it's not just that. It's just the feeling, like.
It's a petri dish, right? It's just kind of, I don't know. I think I agree with you. More people need to go to jail to stay out of jail, right? They should take field trips there. Yeah. I don't know if you said that, but I'm going to say they should take field trips there.
We took a field trip my junior year of high school to Angola. Yeah. That was every junior had to do that at St. Paul's, and I know a bunch of other high schools do that, but that was eye opening for sure. It's kind of our little scared straight.
Yeah, I've been to the federal penitentiary in Oakdale as a high schooler, and just went to experience it and listen to some of the prisoners. They would have talks. They would tell you about their story and how they got there. And, you know, I think it's a thing that the schools do to kind of deter younger kids getting in trouble. And for me, it was those barbed wire fences look super sharp. Yeah. Why would I ever want to be imprisoned here, you know, as a kid?
Is that a big employer in Oakdale?
Yeah, it's one of the main employers in Oakdale.
A lot of people, a lot of your friends' dads or mothers work there?
I don't really know, man. Oakdale, I try to stay in communications with people there. A lot of people I grew up with and graduated high school with kind of moved out. I still have family there, but as to like the working class, I'm not really sure. But I do know they work there, and Boise Cascade, the wood plant over there is really big. Royal Martin, another plant that a lot of people from the area, not just Oakdale, but the surrounding areas, work at, because Oakdale, I think, has a population of less than 10,000 people. So It's super small.
Is Lake Charles the closest city?
Alexandria is probably the closest city.
Oh, okay. You're in between.
Yeah. I kind of look at Oakdale as the center of everything. It's an hour from Lafayette, 50 minutes from Lake Charles, 35, 40 minutes from Alexandria.
Interesting. When you're in Lake Charles, so there's a lot of action going on with the casinos.
Yeah, always.
So do you probably see a lot of Texas people?
A lot of Texas people.
Texas. Is that where they come gamble on the weekends?
Yeah, not just the weekends, the weekdays too.
Weekdays?
Yeah. Well, the casinos will send them, comps or emails to say, hey, we'll give you these package deals. You come in, we'll comp you these rooms. You stay for the week, and we'll raise up our room rates and get you to stay for the weekend, and stuff like that.
What's the high casino? Where is the nicest facilities and all that stuff?
Well, the Gold Nugget is there, L'Auberge is there, but the Horseshoe is a relatively newer casino. It was the old Isle of Capri, and I believe Harris is the company that came in and kind of just revamped it all and changed it up to be a new casino. So the Horseshoe is the newest casino in the area. They're all pretty nice, though. And
so some of your clients are probably people that get hurt in wrecks from Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have some.
Or DWIs.
All walks of life, man.
Yeah.
No family law from Texas. I have some that weren't like here whenever they got injured, but they may live in Texas now for the family side. But yeah, criminal clients from Texas. I have personal injury clients from Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. And likewise, you probably go to Houston a good bit too.
Yeah. Yep.
How far is it from Houston?
It's about 2 hours, 20 minutes, depending on traffic. I'm there a lot, almost every other weekend.
Yeah. You stay downtown?
No, my girlfriend's from Houston, so we're in the River Oaks area.
Well, that's convenient.
Yeah, very convenient.
Yeah. Where do you? I know you're younger than me, so you still go out a good bit.
Still try to, just to be active, I think.
I'm not knocking it.
Oh, I know.
I'm not knocking it at all. I am jealous, my friend. You don't have any kids.
No kids.
I've spent my weekends are spent at the ballpark, or
That's not a bad thing, man.
No, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Game.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Sure.
But I do live vicariously through your social media. Just saying. Just putting that out there.
I appreciate that, man.
Give me your top 3 places.
Houston, to eat. So I was thinking about this on the way. To eat for like a brunch setting, if you like wine and brunch atmosphere, there's a place called a Boozy. Their thing is they have very good food, but they sell like their wine and their bottles at their cost. So essentially, if you're buying a bottle, you're getting it for the same price that they're getting it for.
Sweet.
So it's cool. So you walk in, the atmosphere is great because most of their setups are cases of wine, different types of wine that you may not get at a regular restaurant.
Oh, dude, that's how old I am. I forget that like brunch is like just as like on par with going out that night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a good place.
A Boozy. All right, I'm writing that down.
Yeah, you should. ABOUZY.
Are you writing it down, Carter? I know you're gonna.
You should check it out. I think the spelling's right, but it's cool.
Okay, that's your brunch spot. Give me an after hours spot.
So there's a group called the Clay Group in Houston. They have multiple spots throughout the city. Nightclub, if that's your thing. Anything related to the Clay Group it's a great spot. They do really well with the hospitality industry. They have nightclubs, but then on Sundays they have pool parties. Famous DJs come in and they bring in.
Damn,
they kill it, man. They kill it. I don't know how they got into it, but they kill it.
I just missed it, man.
Yeah,
I missed it by a few years.
And Bottle Blonde's another going out spot that's really cool off of Washington.
And where do you get steak?
Steak 48 or Mastro's. The food is phenomenal. The service is great.
So you can, where you at in Lake Charles, you can have a full day of work, go home, take a quick shower,
Sure.
drive to Houston,
Yep.
get a good dinner, go out, hit brunch the next day,
Yep.
come back Saturday or Sunday morning,
Yep.
get a full weekend in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, answer me this. You're from Oakdale, from Louisiana.
Right.
Do you eat crawfish in Houston? Because I see they're doing some wild stuff with their crawfish over there.
Yeah, man. I've tried their crawfish in Houston. My opinion is they can't touch Louisiana's crawfish, but
We're talking about like the Asian
I think that's
Yeah,
what he's
yeah.
probably getting at.
Yeah, there's some Asian or Vietnamese.
Yeah,
flair or
it's
whatever.
usually Vietnamese style, but man, they got good crawfish too. Just depending on how they cook it, but they all like
butters and
drown
garlics
it, drown it in different type of sauces.
Yeah.
You know, so
Man, how could you beat a Cajun
I know.
crawfish?
I agree. You can't.
You can't.
They can try, but you can't.
It's undefeated.
Yeah.
If you come to Lafayette and you go to a place like Crawfish Time, and it's gigantic crawfish, well seasoned, you leave and you're crying. It's like, that's a good night.
Oh yeah, that was a successful trip.
And so I wanted to talk about family law real quick.
Okay.
You handle family law.
Yeah.
I have said many, many times on this podcast that if I have to do family law, I'll go work offshore or do something else. Like,
Sure.
I'm not built for it.
I got you.
It's hard to win,
Yeah.
right? There is no winning.
Nobody wins.
Right. The minute, and I guess it's part of managing clients' expectations is
Yeah.
part of the thing you do. And you're so laid back and chill. Like, I could see how like you would just put everybody at ease and calm.
Yeah,
and
that's
like,
the main goal.
yeah, like this is gonna not be so good, but we'll
Yeah.
get through it.
Yeah.
You know. Do you represent more women or men?
I couldn't tell you.
Split.
Probably.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you though.
When I was,
And I don't have a preference. I mean, I'm there for a reason.
I always represented the men.
Yeah.
Because I was so silly when I was doing family law because I was just trying to keep the lights on.
Right.
They were getting hosed, and then they'd come across like $1,500. I'd be like, I'll take the case. And they had like some lady on the other side with all the money, all the resources, and just a actual family lawyer, and they would just hammer me with discovery responses, and I just go in with just pure emotion, and they would usually do pretty well, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, I mostly represented men.
My thing is with the family law is, I guess complaint is that most of attorneys that have, like you mentioned, a lot of people think they know everything about family law or they can handle any kind of family law case, but those attorneys may not handle family law on a regular basis. So they may say, yeah, we'll handle your divorce. Well, divorce isn't the only issue. So if you're coming to talk to me about a divorce, and you have kids and you got a bunch of community property, we're not just going to talk about divorce. We're going to talk about the divorce. We're going to talk about spouse support, child support, custody, and community property. That's all related to divorce.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. So when people say, oh, well, I do divorces, well, you also have an obligation when meeting with these clients to include these other issues.
Right.
Because they're a part of it.
Absolutely.
And it may be it's possible, I'm not saying it is or isn't, but you could also argue that it's a malpractice case if you don't mention these things and talk to them about it.
Because they can never get rid of that property.
No.
If it wasn't dealt with in the community property.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of open questions about custody and child support and everything else. Mm-hmm. So the people that like advertise $6.99 divorces or whatever, that's not the full
No,
story.
they're specifically advertising for the divorce issue itself, meaning we'll file for a divorce.
Yeah.
Depending on if you're a 102 or 103 divorce, we'll go and finalize it or we'll get you an immediate divorce.
Yeah.
We won't handle anything else.
Right. Do you do any other type of family law like adoptions or any of that stuff?
I've done a few intra-family adoptions. The private adoptions I don't really handle. I've only done a few of the intra-family adoptions. Mm-hmm. I don't see them a lot. So if I do have one, I'll try to refer it out. We have an attorney over in Lake Charles that does really good job on all of the adoptions.
Yeah. it's hard to stay current on everything, man.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
What do you what do you think the average divorce costs people nowadays? If you have children and community property.
What I tell people is, number one, it's going to depend on who you hire, obviously. Whether or not you have an experienced attorney versus a young attorney, the hourly rates may be different. But primarily the costs are going to depend upon how much you and opposing party fight.
Yeah.
The more y'all fight, the more costly it's going to be. You come to me and say, hey, we've already got this custody agreement plan worked out. We're agreeing on child support, spousal support. Then obviously it's going to be a lot less costly. Or it'll be, I may say, hey, if this is true, if it's an undisputed case, meaning we're not fighting about anything, the attorney may give you a flat rate.
Yeah. But you almost wish that same message was delivered by the other attorney.
Right.
Because if you don't want to fight and they want to fight,
then you have to fight. You don't have a choice. Unless your client's just like, Cody, I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Just give them whatever they want.
Right.
You still have an obligation to tell them, though, what their rights are that they're giving up.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I've talked to a lot of people into staying married.
You could do that too.
They're like, how much? What do you think? I was like, bro, you're getting a $5,000 retainer.
Yeah.
And that's not going to go very far.
Right.
That might get you the first hearing.
Yep.
And you still have a hearing for the child support, child custody,
Yep.
I don't think people realize, oh, dude, I could afford an attorney. It's like, yeah, you might, but you and her have to, and she needs an apartment, and you need a house, or you get the house, she gets a house, you get an apartment, 2 TVs, 2 sets of silverware, 2 electric.
Are you paying for everything for her?
Yeah.
To live.
That's crazy. All of a sudden, you can start maybe working things out, and that's the design of the system, right?
Yeah.
They want to make it tough to get a divorce.
Well, the courts naturally don't like to interfere with people's lives. I mean, a third party or a neutral person that doesn't really know anything about you, they don't like, the court just traditionally doesn't like telling people how to raise their kids or, but they will, especially if you have another side that's saying, hey, this is what's going on. They will.
Cody, before we started talking, you mentioned that you had a question for me. Shoot.
Yeah, man. So obviously before meeting you in Atlanta back in 2022, I think we were following each other on social media. And since then, right, I feel like we've become closer. But this podcast thing, man, I'm curious about it. How is it? Have you seen any kind of business increase in your business, or how has it benefited you in your practice?
What's interesting is, like, no one will ever tell me when they hire me, like, I heard you on the podcast, I saw you on social media, I did X, Y, Z. They say, somebody told me to call you, or a good friend of mine told me about you, or I whatever. They'll never admit. And I heard the same thing, like, people, like, at the conference, they'll say, same thing with billboards, commercials. No one will ever admit how they found you. So it's just another way of getting out there. But really, like, in terms of, like, a return on investment, no way. No way.
I didn't think so. I was just curious.
There's no
about
way.
That, man.
I mean, but it fills a different bucket. Yeah. It's like, it's a creative outlet from a very mundane thing that we do, the monotony of practicing law every day. And I feel that sincere, like, just coming from where I come from, that need to educate the public.
Absolutely.
There's not many lawyers where I'm from. I know law. I have a bunch of cool friends like you that know a lot about law. Let's talk about it. Let's give the information to the people.
I like it.
So I don't know if I answered your question directly, but
you did.
Now I'll say this. A lot of my friends have made some money off of the podcast because wills that we talk about, trust. We just had a post that hit 1.6 million views.
Congrats on that, man.
And
That's huge.
It was kind of nuts.
It's huge coming from, like, a small town guy, in my opinion.
Right.
That's how I see it.
But there's one problem. I don't do trust. So like, there's 1.6 million views. There's like 1.6 million people that know that they need a trust, and there's no Medicaid clawback. So if you're in the trust business, hey, man, send me a basket of, like, fruit or something. I don't know, because you could chuck it up to your boy over here.
Thank me later.
Thank me later. But I'm always trying to hook people up, good people up with referrals, because it always comes back. Not directly from them. I just mean karma.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
So I got a bunch of cool people that gave their time, and so like I had a family lawyer on. Well, I educated the public on divorce and child custody. People got to see him and see that he was a cool guy, just like you. And they're like, hey, man, you have a referral? I was like, here's this podcast. Listen to this guy.
Yeah.
Here's this video. Watch this guy. And they hired him. And so not directly in car wrecks, because you know how fortuitous or speculative a car wreck could be.
Yeah.
But, no, man, it's helping.
That's cool.
But it is filling the bucket.
Yeah, I like it.
So one interesting thing is, like, I was approached on social media to do certain ads and like promote certain topics or like ads in the podcast. And I thought for a minute, I was like, that's cool, dude. They're going to pay me to just record something, it's going to take 2 minutes of my time.
Right.
It was painful. Like I could not just get in front of the camera to record a 2-minute spot. It was painful.
I got you.
And I was like, I can only do things that I'm passionate about. And it was just like, I don't mean to sound like a prima donna.
It is what it is.
If it doesn't move me, I don't need whatever they're offering. So I'm not gonna fake it, Sure. And so that was kind of a cool moment. Like when I realized like, no, this is truly just a gift to my people, to educate them.
Well, I think that also goes with saying that says a lot about you as a person in general.
Yeah.
So,
well, it says a lot about you that you drove all this way to be here and educate people, and I really appreciate it, Cody.
Yeah, man, appreciate the invite.
Where can we find you, my man?
Instagram, Facebook, my office in Lake Charles. Feel free to look me up, Google. I try to be out there as much as possible.
Car Crash Cody?
Car Crash Call Cody.
Car Crash Call Cody. Dude, I'm jealous, man. I wish I'd have thought of that.
Well, I got to give credit. Billy Lofton at our office is the one that came up with that. He was like, man, it's kind of catchy. You should start using it. Hopefully it's taken off.
I love it. Yet, now you need some mugs. See, I got my mug. Keep calm and call Chaz. You need some mugs.
I'll send you one.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for being here, man.
Appreciate you.
All right, bro. Hey, it would mean the world to me if you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a 5-star review. It helps keep the show free, and it helps us book better guests to provide more valuable content to you. None of the opinions expressed by my guests are that of my own, and nothing we talked about creates an attorney-client relationship or could be construed as legal advice. Hope you enjoy the show.
This podcast is powered by Acadiana Cast Network. Go to acadianacast.com for more South Louisiana sourced content.